Hi, my name's Phil. I'd like to talk about politics, and in this third segment on wild speculation about what might happen if Trump had to be replaced as president by JD Vance, I'd like to discuss the potential impact on Europe and especially NATO and European defence. But first, for daily news and politics, please click the subscribe button to stay notified. So it's all getting a little bit spicy. There will be a big announcement from Trump a couple of hours after this video goes live. We are assured by the White House that it's a defence announcement and nothing to do with his health. I may stream it tonight anyway. Still, the man has the scythe of Damocles hovering over him, even if it won't be falling today. So what happens if he has to be replaced by Vance as president, for whatever reason? The prospect of any president stepping aside and their VP taking over is rare enough in America that it will always be big news at any time. But with the highly dysfunctional nature of the state under Trump, the issue becomes way more important, including internationally. So from a European defence point of view, would Vance be better or worse than Trump? On trade, he could be better. Trump's tariffs seem to be on him rather than having a lot of wider support from the oligarchs. I think Vance would have to be careful. I don't think he'd want to be seen to be dismantling Trump's policies. But there are ways to neuter the tariffs without actually getting rid of them. You just create a load of exemptions for like pretty much everything. But defence is another matter. Vance, like Trump, is an admirer of Putin's Russia. That being said, he is also actively working to promote the far right in Europe. And although the far right in Europe have been traditionally on Putin's side, admiring his authoritarian grip on power and disdain for the decadence of Western liberal democracies, many figures on the right are turning on Putin as he's threatening their country as well. Basically, far-right leaders share Putin's hatred for liberal democracy, but many of them see him as a threat to their own politics, with some notable exceptions. So there are some who think there's some nuance entered into Vance's thinking of late. Vance is friendly with Russia and he aligns quite strongly with Putin's politics, but Russia is not of particular value to the US in itself. Europe is a much bigger potential partner, economically and politically. So there's a sense in which Vance could well provide more stable support for NATO and European defence, albeit along similar lines to the ones ploughed by Trump. That being said, there are a couple of flies in the ointment. The first is Putin himself. It seems crushingly obvious he has some sort of hold on Trump. Would the same be true of Vance? Is Vance free of blackmail or PSYOPs influence? If so, then Vance's behaviour towards Russia will be purely political. But the second is that the MAGA base have been conditioned to be more pro-Russia than pro-Europe, and they really hate the so-called forever wars. They don't want American forces. It's quite funny. They love the fact America's got this massively powerful military, but they don't ever want it to be used. And Vance will need to work hard to maintain the MAGA coalition if he is to achieve his aims. So it may well be that for potentially different reasons, Vance has to be an even bigger obstacle to European security than Trump currently is. So let's think about how this could work in terms of timelines. So imagine waking up initially to a single tweet that just says, Europe, you're on your own. No warning, no press conference, just a few keystrokes and the most powerful military alliance in history starts unravelling. Now, this sounds implausible, but JD Vance has already hinted he'd do exactly that. I mean, let's go through day by day how the president, Vance, could gut NATO before the summer's even over and what that would feel like for the rest of us. So Vance swears the oath. A minute later, his thumbs hit send. Time for Europe to defend itself. NATO exit order signed. Clock starts now. No spin room, no staffer cleanup tour, just raw presidential authority, stamping that's literally what it would be, stamping his authority on MAGA saying, we're carrying on here, we're doing this. Social media vintage, of course. Phones in Brussels melt. Reporters sprint through the West Wing. The North Atlantic Council pings back. Can you clarify that, please? The National Security Advisor just goes, well, there's the tweet, that's the policy. NATO's own rule book says a country needs a year to leave. Vance's lawyers just go, the tweet is constructive notice. And they're treating it like gospel. TikTok. 4 days in, quiet email lands at the Pentagon, subject line, halt all new NATO obligations. which basically means the $2 billion the US normally pumps in each year, that's gone. No new buildings, no AWACS upgrades, no rent for the Brussels HQ. European finance ministers look at spreadsheets and go, oh, what's going on? Big holes in the old budget where American cash used to be. By day 7, the North Atlantic Council holds an emergency session. The US ambassador shows up, crosses his arms, says nothing. Day 10, liaison officers quietly pack their laptops up and fly home, unplugging the digital veins that keep NATO's brain alive. Then a couple of weeks into it, 2 or 3 weeks into it, legislative warfare. So, your founding fathers is evoked. Congress scrambles with the NATO Preservation Act. They demand that any troop pullout needs approval from Capitol Hill. Vance says, he holds a rally somewhere and he goes, the swamp loves forever war, but I love Ohio workers. The crowd roars, polls split right down the middle. Capitol Hill head counters realise there are a couple of Senate votes shy of a veto-proof majority. Across the Atlantic, the EU races to allow joint defence bonds, but bonds traders take a look at Europe suddenly responsible for its own nukes and then go, yeah, you're going to have to pay a lot more, a higher interest rate before we take these. The Europe drops a couple of cents. Then, after the first month, you've got hardware walking out the door. You've got C-17 starting to leave. You've got F-35s coming away from RAF bases. You've got fresh desert camo jobs waiting in Arizona. 173rd Airborne, that gets the memo. Pack up, get home by, October, November, whenever. German drivers watch the convoys roll past. Stars and stripes folded away into the cargo nets. NATO planners had a nice, neat chart showing how reinforcements could reach Estonia in like 48 hours. The chart's now on fire. Then, after the first couple of months, the intelligence curtain falls. Then the NSA flips a switch. No more live satellite feeds for the Europeans, including Ukraine. Analysts at RAF bases watch the screens go dark over Russian tank parks. Then, as we're getting closer towards winter, the US quietly exits the Five Eyes liaison desk at NATO HQ. Europe's early warning system shrinks from hours to minutes. French spies, they meet German spies in a Paris safe house and they pull their pocket money and realise even together they can't buy a single US spy satellite. Estonia's government gets a bit worried. They're going, hey up, are we alone here? The internet loses its mind. Then, nuclear umbrella gone. Vance orders every B-61 bomb out of Europe. 100 warheads, each one the size of a suitcase with the power of Hiroshima, of course. All gets trucked, then flown to New Mexico under armed guard. European leaders, who once called these things relics, suddenly remember why they kept them around. Poland's president goes onto TV. He's the one who sort of, aligned with the far right. And even he has to go, oh, can you bring the bombs here? Like, we'll host them. You like us, yeah? The White House phone doesn't ring back, though. Then you're getting towards the end of the year. The dominoes fall. NATO HQ turns into a museum nobody wants to visit. Hallways, cafeteria runs out of fries by noon. Camera, Alliance's military chief insists Article 5 still stands. Markets aren't buying it. European stocks nosedive. Hungary floats neutrality. Turkey hints at reopening talks with Moscow over Black Sea access. Then you're into the new year. The North Atlantic Council convenes again. You've got a single empty chair where the US delegate used to sit. That says everything. No vote to dissolve, no dramatic gavel, but NATO effectively just stops. Now, this is hopefully not going to happen. We know that Europe is trying to replace that American defence infrastructure in Europe, but it can't do it now. It's doing it, but it's going to take years. Optimistic appraisals say it could take 10 years, and that's if things go well. If America withdraws immediately. But like I said at the start, Vance has shown signs of wanting to work with Europe. Not even strictly just the far right either. I mean, David Lammy has been working on their relationship. Vance even chose to spend part of his summer holiday with this left-wing foreign secretary. Maybe they bonded over the fact they've both said incredibly disparaging things about Trump in the past. So I don't think Vance would genuinely be thinking in terms of going further and faster than Trump ever did. I don't think he would have in his mind, I'm going to dissolve NATO. But let's say that he was struggling to establish himself as MAGA leader, which is surely vital if he's to ram things past both Congress and the Supreme Court, as Trump has been able to do. And let's say ending involvement in the so-called forever wars is the way he feels he needs to move to get them on side. Then who knows? Maybe it's better the devil you know. Or maybe not. Uncertainty and speculation would be absolutely rife, of course. But let me know what you think in the comments below. For more content, you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams and behind-the-scenes updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.